right, today we're going to talk about this 1943 GMC-CCKW. I'm so excited to share this information with you about this truck. Welcome to All Vehicles Great and Small. I'm your host, Tammy Walker. Hey, thank you to everybody that left comments about this truck as really helpful. We really want to help educate the younger community about these old trucks, and your information is valuable to them. Thank you so much. This 1943 truck has a lot of special things, so we'll talk about it. We were coming up, we're just going to go real quick and come over here. And I believe this is a blackout light. So if you know more about that, please leave in information. I'll try to look in my information and find out more. So we got our marker lights, our headlights. This was designed by GMC. Now this winch here is a 10,000 pound winch. This was optional and it added 300 pounds to the vehicle. Okay, yeah, it's PTO operated. We've got a lever right here. All right, and these over here, Jeff, what do you think these are for? Stabilizers. There's not one on the other. Well, I don't know. We'll go look and see. So for these, it's all wired up. I would take this out, but you could just put this down and put this to the height that you want to hold the vehicle in place.
To use the stabilizer, unclip it and it would swivel down. Pull the pin, which would normally be in one of these three holes. Let it fall to the ground and place the pin in the hole. And then turn this screw type jack to adjust pressure to the ground.
Yeah, here's the other stabilizer here. We've got some leaf springs. There's many different types of leaf springs. This one is actually more of a straight and flatter leaf spring. And it looks like maybe another split rim design. See the paint coming off of here. All right, these big old hinges and the doors. Little pieces and parts on them. Very interesting system here. Ah! I would be able to get that apart. Oh, here we have a vent that goes to the engine. That's the what do they call this specifically?
Crank breather, but it could be vent for the gearboxes.
It comes down in here, the hose, and it actually goes down. So I'm sure if we got in there, we could take a look. What type of tanker is this? A water hauler? These trucks helped win World War II. Eisenhower said these were one of the top 6 vehicles to help win World War II, but this was the top truck to help win the war. Let's come down here and take a look at these rims. This is called a 6x6. The U.S. Army Ordnance Corps designed these trucks and asked for the companies to build them. And I'll get into that more in my history section. Come to the back. We've got some reflectors, tiny little brake lights, nice rolled steel. This must be our hitch. It's a pintle hitch. Interesting. Well, I guess I'll have to read about hitches now. Come over to this side and we'll take a walk down.
We had some static over our audio, but right here we're talking about how when this was probably bought at auction. The farmer turned this into the water truck and did some modifications on here. And so this was typically used for the farm.
You can see here where they welded this piece of metal on to the tank part, put a hole in it, and bolted it to the frame. Gasoline.
Aftermarket. It's off of a Ford truck
Okay, aftermarket gasoline tank, Ford truck. There's information there.
from 1973.
1973? Wow. All right, come back around. Let's get up in here. What's this here, Jeff? Look at that. It's making this.
On and off for your water.
Okay, why don't you show me activating it? I mean, just
That's so you don't have to get out of the truck to turn your water on and off when you're controlling dust at a construction site or at your orchard
okay.
farm.
Production inspection 257. Cycle inspection 1057. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to stand up here and tell you a couple things that I know. They added, okay, so 1943 was the beginning of the open cab. They did this because it was easier, cheaper, and faster to produce these. And it was much easier to ship these because it took the height down in these trucks. So 1 in 4 of these trucks were mounted with a ring right here. It'd be a big ring, and that's where they would put a 50 caliber machine gun. So 1 in 4 of these trucks had it. Take a look. The things that you find in these museum pieces out here are actually kind of comical. All right. Come down and let's take a look at what we've got inside this truck. Well, we've got these old spring seats. There's 2 of them. And you can move them forward. Go. Push it back real hard. Okay. All right, here's one of these vents again that's right here. Maybe we'll find the lever this time. I never actually point out those levers in here, do I? Is it this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's this one, but it's stuck. This would be the lever here. All right. I know this goes up to 45 miles an hour, high speed, but here's our transfer case, speeds, high range, low range. They got direct, third, second, first, reverse. Take a look over here. We've got our oil pressure gauge, our temperature gauge. Look at this old beat up speedometer. I have never seen one like this. This is very cool looking.
This cylinder round-ended item that is sticking out of the dashboard right here is a blackout light that is pointed at the gauges. That way the enemies can't see the light up and the soldiers can stay hidden.
We've got our fuel gauge over here and our amperes. And then this says BO drive. We have our lights and there's several, there's another little switch up here, but that seems stuck. We have our choke, our ignition. So we might just have to move that and turn it on.
There's no key.
Yeah, there's no key. I don't see a bottom. Oh, there is a starter right here. So I'm guessing you would turn this ignition switch into position and then you come down to this button here and you go push that in, start it. Might have to do a couple times. give it a couple pumps of gas. It depends. All right, back up here, we have the throttle. And this is kind of like a old-fashioned cruise control. We have our panel lights here. And yes, this does look like a doorbell, but I don't think that is what this is.
Aftermarket horn.
Aftermarket horn. Well, that's pretty close.
That makes it strictly cool.
To drain cooling system, remove radiator cap. Open two petcocks on left rear side of engine on front of radiator core. So there's a lot of these little information plaques on here. Have different little things. Let's open this up. Wow. All right. And then this top front, I'm going to guess, does come down because you have these little lever pieces here. And everything is really stuck. I think we should bring some WD-40 with us if we want to, fix stuff or get them to open. Come like over here. What's this little lever, do you think, here?
Vacuum vent for optional wipers.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Oh, come down and we'll take a look at this here. We've got our clutch, our brake, and our gas, our starter button there. Now we'll talk about the transfer cases after this. We'll go down and take a look at those and point out what they do. So we have our different gear shifters for the different ranges that this goes in. This would be the brake, and I've been noticing this on the older trucks. This is what the brake would look like. So we'll talk more about these in a moment. All right. I like these too. You can move these. All right. Okay, let's come over down and look underneath on this side, and we'll talk about this system. And Jeff, I would love for you to explain this.
Kind of an interesting system they had here. This is a 6x6, so the front drive axle is driven. Both rear axles are driven at the same time. This is the transfer case. Got a drive line going to the front to drive that axle. You've got a drive line coming out of the transfer case going to the first drive axle, and then you have another drive line up here that goes all the way back and drives the rear axle. So 3 drive lines running at once. This is the brake, the e-brake brake right here.
I don't see a hole down here, or maybe it's this one to help crank start it, but it's hidden by the winch. This engine is the GMC-270 straight 6. This is a 5-speed manual. And I believe every company that took a contract for these 6x6s put their own engines in them. Studebaker, REO, International Harvester,
Yellow Coach.
were the American divisions that built these trucks. REO's design wasn't accepted, so they ended up building the Studebaker. and I'll have more information on that. We have our carburetor here. This is super simplistic. Our relay fuse box. Come down to our manifold. The battery would go over here. Would that be a regular 12-volt battery?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
This might have been a 6-volt system back originally.
Engine oil filler tube. And let's go over here. This was for holding the hood up. Let's take a look. Oh, that's tough.
Looks good. Let's go for a drive.
I bet we could. Jeff says he bets he could get this started in no time, and I definitely believe him because I've seen you do it many times. Got the distributor cap is down here. Just come off. Ugh. Won't be able to get that. There we go. Anyway. Very simplistic, beautiful truck. I'm really happy that we have this here at the museum, and it's a 1943. It's also the year they did the open cabs for these.
So on this particular windshield frame, they're able to fold it down completely, leave it up. You could loosen these, and the windshield would pivot a little bit. Very interesting. Hard piping for a vacuum system wiper that is no longer here. Or is it? Hey! It would have ran this vacuum wiper.
Oh, wow. What else is in here that... Well, there's a t-shirt. I don't know the extremity of this mask.
Oh, I'll put this here. This goes with the truck. See, all of these military made everything quick disconnect so you could change things out real quick. I would imagine that the transmission, transfer case, vents, this is the vent breather cap, and they put it way up here so that if you're traversing water, you're not going to introduce water into your gearboxes. This is different options of things to tie down, hooks.
What's this thing on the ground? Just extra scrap in here? Because it is taped up. It must be parts to this.
It is probably a part to it. I don't like losing parts, so I tied them behind the seat.
Oh, and under these seats, there is space to put stuff too. Like hands and more parts. Now, what do you think all of these different gears go, or these shifters go to?
I'm going to assume this is PTO on and off. This is your main transfer case shifter. We have first, second,
Oh, I see that.
third, fourth, fifth overdrive. This is your handbrake. This is probably transfer case engaged.
This one might be low, neutral, high, and this one might be in and out according
Oh, yep.
to this
Oh no,
schematic?
this is the winch PTO.
Oh, okay.
This turns the winch on.
Okay.
So
Nice.
this is in and out.
What do you think that hole was for?
That is to access your uh, brake reservoir, oil reservoir.
Okay.
That's your master cylinder for your brakes.
Let's come up under here.
My 59 Chevy is exactly the same.
I don't see a heater core in this. So they've obviously just used the heat of the engine to keep themselves warm.
A lot of times, creature comforts weren't included in military vehicles because you would have been dressed for the environment that you're in case your vehicle was stranded and or stuck or military does the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid.
Around 1939 to 1940, the U.S. Army Ordnance Corps began designing a tactical cargo truck that could operate off-road in all kinds of weather conditions. What they came up with was a 2.5-ton rated 6x6. International Harvester, Studebaker, REO Motor Car Company, and Yellow Coach, a division of GM Company, all submitted their designs to the U.S. government. All the designs were accepted except for REO. However, REO still got to create the Studebaker design, and by 1941, these were in production. Most of the 200,000 Studebakers, REOs, and International Harvester trucks went to the Soviet Union. By 1943, Yellow Coach Division was renamed the GMC, and the GMC-CCKW design became the most important military truck to the U.S. And around this time, the nickname Jimmy for GMC started to appear. This is a model GMC CCKW 353. 353 means it's a long base. A 352 is a short wheelbase. And at the end, if it's a dash B2, that's a gun truck. The CCKW stood for C, designed in 1941, the second C, conventional cab, K, all-wheel drive, W, dual rear axles, and X meant experimental chassis, non-standard, and the note said the first 13,188 units were this. And 1943 discovered the open cab design, which was faster, cheaper, and easier to build, and a lower shipping height. Later on, cargo bodies were made mainly out of wood because most of the metal was going towards the war effort. The open roof design also allowed for a ring to hold a .50 caliber machine gun to be mounted. 1 in 4 trucks had the ring. This truck series was from 1941 to 1945. I read different statements about how many of these were produced. One statement said between 1939 and 1945, there were about 675,000 6x6s produced. And then another comment said there were 560,000 6x6s, 6x4s, amphibious DUKW, and a few more models combined made. During World War II, GMC was nicknamed the Jimmy, and by the 1950s, REO began their series of the M35, which ironically, that became the standard military truck. When their original design was turned down by the government, then they got the contract to continue making these standardized trucks. The CCKW successor was the M135, or the Deuce and a Half. It was the substitute standard behind the REO M35. And that M35 became the longest lived series and most successful truck deployed by the U.S. military. And in 1991, the U.S. started replacing the 2.5-ton 6x6 and 6x4 trucks. And a little side note, there probably wasn't any keys for a lot of military vehicles because they would always be lost in somebody's pocket. Please leave a comment if you know. That would be great.
Hey, thanks for joining us. If you have any information you'd like to add about this truck, it's really helpful to the community. We'd really appreciate it if you could put it down in the comments. And thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.